Hello, film fans. Welcome to All the Film Things. I'm your host, Elizabeth. Thank you for listening. If you're enjoying this podcast, please leave a review and a rating. Also follow All the Film Things on Instagram for updates and more film things. Today, I am talking with Art Smith Jr. Art Smith Jr. is a Florida-based educator who has been working in the industry for over 50 years and has mentored over 400 individuals and counting over the course of his career that have too become industry professionals. He has worked predominantly behind the camera in various roles, such as a production assistant, project manager, and prop master for well-known feature films such as The Way We Were, Good Morning Vietnam, and The Bucket List, and under the direction of acclaimed filmmakers such as Alan J. Pakula, Brian de Palma, and Martin Scorsese. Art is a member of several prestigious organizations in the industry, including the American Film Institute and the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences TV. He is also the owner of the production company No Budget Movie Company and is a producing partner of Code7 Films. Art has worked in several different mediums, including film, television, and music videos, one of which, for the song Talking to the Wall, earned him both a Telly Award and Aurora Award in 1999. Just last month, Art was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award at the Orlando International Film Festival. Aside from his work on set, Art is a retired veteran who served in the U.S. Army for 30 years. Art has been the principal secretary and on the board of directors of the Florida chapter of the nonprofit organization Women in Film and Television, WIFT for short, for nearly 20 years, and 3 exciting new programs, including the Veterans Program and Handicap Program, were recently announced. We will be talking more about WIFT and these new programs later in our interview, but go to womeninfilmfl.org to learn more about the organization as well as grants, programs, and upcoming events. Art, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, you're welcome. My pleasure.
I'm so happy to have you on. To provide some context, we've known each other through WIFT for nearly 3 years, and I first asked you if you'd be interested in coming on the podcast last year, and you immediately said yes, so I'm so thrilled. Today is finally the day. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. But I have to do a disclaimer. For a lot of people, when they hear my voice, they think I'm very young, but actually I'm 78 years old.
Wait, 78?
I'm 78. I just turned 78 on June 11th. And when I talk to people, especially in California, they don't know me. Mm-hmm. They say, "How did you do all these things? How can you do this? Because you sound so young." And I'll ask, "How old do you think I sound?" They go, "About 40." And I'll go, "No, I'm 78, born June 11, 1927. Do the math."
That must make you feel pretty good, though. You de-aged yourself in voice.
It does. I mean, it's nice because, like, when you're dealing with people, they don't think you're like this old crusty guy. Mm-hmm. So I guess it gets you a leg up on certain things to be able to be young. But you have to have the energy.
Yes.
See, that's the most important thing. You can talk young, but if you don't have the energy, well, then there isn't much you can do.
And you have the energy. It's very evident in WIFT events. You're always passionately discussing film and the business, and you've accomplished so much. I mean, we just talked about this before we started, but 90 minutes is going to be so quick. I'm not going to be able to get through all my questions or devote as much time to certain projects of yours, but I'm going to try my best to make this a well-rounded interview. Through preparing for this interview, and from our previous conversations, your understanding of film, especially the business aspect of the industry, is incomparable, and you have been very generous with sharing your knowledge to hundreds of people over the years. So I'm very curious to learn, how did you first fall in love with cinema?
How did I first fall in love with cinema? Well, you have to understand, back when I was a kid, we had more TV channels in North Jersey than any other place in the world. We had all these channels that showed old movies. And of course, we had the major networks, but we had like the $1 million movies. So you could watch a movie all day long, the same movie right after, played, and they kept playing for an entire week. So if you liked the movie, you were able to, at the end of the movie, be able to know every line of the film. I still know today the soundtrack of Ganga Din, the 1940s movies. But I would sit down and I'd watch it, and I would learn to imitate some of the personalities that were on there. And then that took me into the school system. And when I was a 7th grader, I had a teacher, a great guy named Mr. Payaget. And Mr. Payaget said to me, "If you don't stop fooling around in class, I'm going to have to fail you because you're ruining my class. Well, I ruined this class because I was making jokes all the time on the situation. I wasn't making fun of people, but I was making fun of jokes. And so Mr. Paella took it upon himself to take me to see my first Broadway show. My parents lived 30 minutes out of New York City, but that wasn't their world. So Mr. Paella took myself and another student to see a play. It's called Wonderful Town. And at the end of it, he said, "You want to go backstage and meet the stage manager and the cast?" Well, again, not really understanding that, we all went yes, went backstage, and the stage manager said to me at that time, "I hear you're coming back Saturday for an audition." And I had no idea what he meant. I ended up going back, and then from that started my theater career of being a kid on Broadway kind of deal, because these shows were in New York City. So I ended up going and being in that show, and then Bye Bye Birdie and South Pacific and King and I and West Side Story. And that took me through most of my high school years. So that's the acting part of what I did. And then I got lucky. A gentleman named Nat Hiken, who was a producer of a couple of TV shows, he hired me to be the voice for the 1964 New York World's Fair for what they called the GE Pavilion. And the GE Pavilion ended up being Epcot that we know today, like the rides around and the scenarios are there. And that got me to meet Fred Gwynn, who played Herman Munster. And it got me to meet Al Lewis, who played Grandpa Munster. And another guy named Joey Ross, who played Sergeant Ritchik on the Phil Silver Show. And he was in Car 54, Where Are You?, which also starred Fred Gwynn. So I got to meet those guys. And then that's where I learned about the film world, of how they shot TV shows. And, they shot TV shows back then on 35 millimeter film. So it was like shooting a movie. So that took me to that part. And then I worked on the pilot for the Munsters. And I guess what happened was they moved from New York. They were going to shoot it at the Astoria Studios. And then they moved it to California. And that was the end of my career. And being a stupid kid, like if you're a kid and you're angry at everybody because they're ruining your career. But as my parents said, we live in New Jersey. Your father works in New Jersey. Our family's in New Jersey. So I stayed in New Jersey. So that ended it for a while till I got drafted. Okay. And then as a senior, and then I got drafted in the Army. I was able to do some things for Armed Forces Radio Korea when I was assigned there. And then when I got reassigned back from the Far East, I ended up at Fort Knox, and they were making Army training films with Hollywood people. So I was a platoon sergeant then, and my duty was to bring my platoon and stand in as extras and such. And I learned from the directors there. And from that, I went to college. I got an early out and started at William Patterson College back then. It was just getting a TV studio. They were getting the new location for the PBS station. And I had an independent study because it was like I was older than all the other kids. So I had an independent study. And from that independent study, I ended up working with PBS, and that pilot that they were doing in 1969 area time was Sesame Street. And then the guys from Sesame Street, the union guys, said you should apply at ABC TV. They were hiring veterans, Vietnam veterans, and I qualified, and I ended up learning to be a cameraman on Ryan's Hope and All My Children.
Oh my God.
And then a woman who was one of the producers that was moving to ABC News asked me if I wanted to transfer to ABC Local News. And I did that for a while. And I still kept going to college, by the way. And then I got asked to work the ABC Evening News with Peter Jennings. And then there was a time when I got my teaching job. I only had to go to college 2 years and then 6 months to do my student teaching in New Jersey. And I finished that and instantly got a new job as a teacher. And when I went to Peter and said, I'm leaving you, the funny part was he asked me, he said, how much do you make as a teacher in New Jersey, as a starting teacher? I said, $9,000 a year. He goes, You're kidding, only $9,000 a year? But I'm a veteran, so I start at a higher pay grade, so I get $13,500. And then from that point, Peter said to me, would you work for me part-time, like when I do my ABC News specials? And I said, yes. And then the great part that happened was about 3 months into my first year of teaching, he called and asked if I could work on a project. And I said to him, I bet you I could if I was allowed to bring students. If I could do a field trip, I'm pretty sure that I would be able to go. And you don't have to pay me because I'm being paid by the school, but you would take that money and then apply it to my students as scholarships or pay for their, eating or whatever it would be. And they said yes. And from that point on, I created a program where students could go work, and I shouldn't say work, intern, okay, and be part of a major production. So periodically I would get calls from commercials that they're looking for kids. Bart Starr, a famous football guy, he did a thing for a power tools commercial, and my kids were in that. And then we ended up working with Joseph Papp at the New York Public Theater out of that, the only high school that was involved in that. And then eventually it went on and on and on and on to many, many shows. So I think that covers how I got started. Did I do that okay?
Yes, you did. My jaw's been dropping as you've been describing this. Like, you started at such a young age, and I mean, I was stunned when I learned that you were on Broadway when you were a kid. I didn't know that about you.
Yeah, no, yeah, I'll tell you one of the hardest parts. Back then, it was kind of strange. I played a native boy in South Pacific, and you could have gotten kids that look like native boys. I had to put on, I'll never forget it, number 28 Egyptian makeup. And it was like this cake makeup. Mm-hmm. And I had to put it all over my body because all I wore was a sarong as I ran across the stage between Act 1 and Act 2 and had a line that said, "It's a boat, it's a boat, it's a boat, there's a boat." And by the time I would come home at night, because we had the night shows, and I had to take a bus home back to Wayne, and you were so tired, you'd take a shower, but next morning you wake up, I still have it around my eyes, my ears, my nose, my mouth, my legs, and my mother was going, "You're ruining all my sheets," because I would do that. And then I have to put it back on again for another show. Because when you were a kid, there was a lot of laws that were there, and you could only work so many hours based on your age, because you worked in New York City, so it was like you really Jackie Coogan Act, I think. And I never got money. The money was put into a trust, which was another pretty cool thing. So that I got money to travel and do the expenses. But, I came back, I was 21 in the Army, and I stopped at my parents' house, and I said, "What are you going to do with your bank account that you have?" And I had no idea you even had it. So I had enough money to buy a summer house down the Jersey Shore.
Oh, and you were a kid.
Yeah, kid. Yep.
Whoa, okay. That's unbelievable. Because you had this experience on stage, when you returned to it, did you think, "Oh, maybe I want to be starring on screen, you want to be an actor in films"? No,
here's what happened. The Army, okay? The Army was the best thing that ever came into my life because it organized me. It taught me leadership skills. It taught me to think out of the box. So when we were doing the Army training films, I'm sitting there and I'm bored out of my mind. They have an actor, and the actor is actually saying this. "In this block of instruction, you're going to learn how to secure your valuables. Your valuables are important for you to secure." Okay? And I'm sitting there making the faces, and I was a sergeant, and we had a major that was in charge. And he's trying to tell me to at ease, stop doing that. And the director came over and said, "You don't like this?" And I went, "No." I said, "By the time that guy finishes that, we're sleeping. Okay? We get up at 6 o'clock in the morning, we run around, we're in bleachers, we're going to watch this, whatever it is, and we're going to be asleep." And then the major said, "You probably could do it better." And I jumped right into a creative mode. See, back in that 60s time frame, there was a TV series called Bullwinkle. And it wasn't really made for kids. It was made for adults. And there was a bad guy in it called Snotty Whiplash. And he was a typical, bad guy out of the black and white, early silent movies. And I said to him, "Well, first of all, we take our wallet and we try to hide it under our dust cover, which is a blanket that we have in our bed. We don't open our locker. And second of all, we should have Snotty Whiplash come out of the locker and then take Snuffy Smith's money." Okay? And I went on and on and on. And when I was done, he said to me, "I can't believe you just wrote that. That's great." And from that point on, logistics came into my life of what it takes to put the project together. You need somebody that can think out of the box. I use these words all the time. You need somebody who's dependable, reliable, and responsible. Well, you learn that when you go into war. You learn that when you're in charge of other individuals, especially like in the military. So I was a sergeant. I was a tank commander. I had tanks underneath me out of platoon. And then eventually I became an officer. And doing that, I had more responsibility. You become a company commander, you go to battalion level, you go up this chain of command. And as you do, people see your skills. The same skills that are required in the military are the same skills that are required for making a movie. For example, I moved in my career 5,000 people from Fort Dix, New Jersey to Fort Drum. And I was in charge of the logistics move when I was a lieutenant. And I had to make sure that everybody was fed, that everybody was safe, that everybody had fuel, that everybody knew where they were going, and that I didn't lose anybody, and that there were no accidents. And, you have to account for all that. Well, you do the same thing for a film. Every day you show up early. A good producer, a good production manager, a good line producer, or a good team member of any film shows up early. And you show up, like in my case, when you're a production manager, I show up before everybody else. And then I teach my PAs that. Okay? So my production assistants see that I'm setting a standard. And then you organize whatever's coming down the pike, whatever the shortfalls are, so you can correct them, so that the director, who is the commander, can go to work, so that there's no loss of money. There's no loss of time. So everything runs smooth. And when things start to go astray, you know how to pull them back. The other thing that you do is you always make sure that your crew is back in bed. I don't mean that physically, but you make sure that everybody finishes, that everything's put away, and we're ready to play tomorrow. That's what you do in the military. That's where I learned that. So people that have been in the industry that met me for the first time, they saw that. They saw that whatever task I had, that I went like 150% on, and that I would get people to follow me. Trust me, there were people that didn't like that are in the industry. But there's one thing about them. They know that you're going to cover their ass. So when there's something done, they know that you're going to protect them and you're not going to try to get them fired, because that would be a silly thing to do at the moment, because they still are valuable. So anyway, that is sort of how I was lucky. Usually on every film I work on, I save money because I pay attention to the things that are around me. When we were working on Casualties of War, there was a scene that we had to shoot in a 747 aircraft. Well, those are obsolete, basically. So they have to go back to California to a studio and use one of the studios, cut in half planes. Well, that costs a lot of money because we're in Thailand. So coming back from picking up materials in Singapore, when we were landing a plane, I saw a 747 sitting on the other side of the road, the runway. And immediately, when I got back to the office to report in, I said, "Are you guys still looking for the 747 aircraft?" And they went, "Yes." And I said, "I saw one. Where?" It's in Bangkok. It's right on the other side of the old Air Force Base. That's next to the big international airport. And it's sitting there. And they went, "You're kidding." So anyhow, immediately we got on another jet. We flew back to Bangkok. We get there, nobody speaks Thai. So nobody has permission to go on the base. Well, I still had my Army ID card. So I showed that, and that got us on base. We talked to the commander, and then eventually they went to the plane. I come back to we do the dailies, and I were all sitting kind of eating together and stuff. And the producer was saying to me, "You know how much money you saved us?" The production goes, "You know how much money you saved us?" See, it's those kind of things. When I worked on Fool's Gold, they didn't have blank firing guns. They couldn't bring them into the Bahamas. And they couldn't get them there because the prime minister was somewhere else, and he was the only one that approved it. Well, I happened to have them for the film I was working on. So when they came in and we started working with them, they told me about, how do you do this? I said, "I've got them." And they were like, "Can we rent them? Can we buy them?" And I said, "No, you can't. I'll give them to you. You can have them to use just as long as you get them back." And that's what you do. See, so you work together with people, and you don't try to hold them out and go, "I'm going to do this." One of the things that was nice was that production company, it gave a tip to the sergeant that was responsible for maintaining the blank guns. The guns we couldn't keep; they had to be kept in the jail, into the police station. So he gave them a tip, which is really, really a generous tip. So there's that. And I can tell you story after story after story. Now I'm going to be a teacher again. It's important to understand that this career that you're in is a career that you're only as good as the last project you worked on. So you can't burn bridges. You need to learn to work with, a lot of people that you may not like. That's not why you should be working in, because you don't like them. But you need to establish those contacts, and networking is critical, and doing the best job that you can is important. Again, vocab words: dependability, reliability, responsibility. If you learn those words and what they really mean, you can work anywhere.
Yes, you taught that in your PA workshop a few years ago.
Well, when we built the charter high school for performing arts in New Jersey, which was another fun task that I did, that was the theme. When you came into the main building, that was up on the wall. Everything we did at that school, every class, everything was all based around those three words. It was set up as it would be if you went to used to be modern film and video in Hollywood. That's what I copied as the production areas for editing and animation. And we had audio. Again, gives you the opportunity that, so when you say to somebody, you want to be dependable, reliable, and responsible, you got to make sure that you give them the tools that they need to be able to accomplish the task.
Right, and it seems like you did that because the TV program you started as a high school teacher was regarded as innovative, and it must be because of that, and as well, you brought your students on set, which is incredible. That's not always possible, and I think we talked about it at a WIFT event, that it's not really allowed in Florida anymore.
Well, the problem that I ended up having, but then I kind of figured a way to get around, again, learning how to get around it, was the union. The union sometimes gets so protective. And a lot of times it gets protective because there are people that, in my world, in New Jersey, are part of the union because they don't want to work. They're happy pulling out, the handouts. There were overhead transparencies. There were, PowerPoints. They don't change. Okay. That's not my world. But my world produced projects for those teachers. That's how I got around that. I'll give you a great example. There's a teacher that was a coach for tennis. They loved tennis. They thought teaching science was fun, but they wanted to have a tennis program. Well, I had a kid that wasn't crazy about science. I said to him, go talk to your science teacher and say, you would love to produce tennis for television. Mm-hmm. I'll give you a grade, and you'll get better grades with him. And that's what he did.
Wow.
And the tennis teacher comes to me and says, this is fantastic. The only people that got videotaped back then was football. Football had the best camera. Football had everything, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I said, why is that fair? Why aren't we videotaping basketball games? Why aren't we taping, soccer? Why aren't we doing girls soccer? Mm-hmm. Every sport and activity that was there, we videotaped.
Oh,
I videotaped chess. Chess club.
Really?
Yeah, right. Because the object of the game was, I own the studio. I'm the producer. I have to get all this stuff ready for my channel, right? In my world. That's what I told them. All right, so you guys have to go out and create content. Go create content. Go do it where it can help you right now. It will help you learning how to do all the technical stuff, but do it for your client and have your client be a teacher that you have. So eventually, in Lacey Township High School, we had, in 1991, I had the first public access channel of a school I know in the world, I think. I don't think anybody had it. I know New Jersey didn't have it. But I went to Adelphia Cable and I got permission to have a head end because in the contract signed in the state of New Jersey, they were supposed to supply a head end at some educational facility. So I said, you owe me one and you owe me gear. I would like to have it. And I want to run a 24-hour channel from the high school. And it was WLTS TV 14, channel 14. Mm-hmm. Okay. So now I have the ability to go out into the community. And I figured out how, with other people from the University of Minnesota, create a message crawl system in the early days. So I could put up a crawl message and it would say, tomorrow's lunch is, stay tuned for this, weather advisement stuff, and broadcast all that. So along with that, I said to all the kids, think out of the box, what you do. So one of my students said, my sister is in third grade and she's doing this thing for Johnny Appleseed. Can we videotape it? I went, that's a great idea. So eventually I got that approved within the school district where kids could get permission when they're doing a project, leave the high school, take the equipment, go over to the elementary school that they went to. So you know who the teachers are and they know the lay of the land because they went there, right? And videotape. So they became producers for the principal of that school. And then the principals would then fill out a studio request requesting, could you videotape this? Could you videotape this? Could you videotape this? And then we could air it on TV. So we would hook it up and say, it'd be like tonight at 7 p.m., this is Johnson's, third grade class, their Arbor Day presentations on. And it got to be so cool that we videotaped the senior prom.
Oh, wow.
I had a theater art student, get dressed up in a tux. And then the crew was out there by the doorway of the entrance of the facility. I had a red carpet, so people would pull up in their cars and the limos and get out, and we would videotape them leaving with, going into the facility. And then I would put on the message crawl live at 9:00, watch Lacey Township's high school's senior prom. I would run that videotape, because we used VHS tape back then, run that videotape back to the studio and then run it. So the parents, it looked like it was live. It was taped. And then while we were doing that, running it back to the studio, there was another teacher there with my students, and the kids are now videotaping you at your table, the dance, the prom awards, the king and queen. All that stuff was all videotaped. Eventually, after we ran it for that weekend, what we did was we would edit it. So the seniors now would come back and they would say, we want to do post-production. So they edit it, and then they would sell the videotapes to the kids,
yes,
which is pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. I mean, with prom, I wonder, that's quite a lot of editing, quite a lot of hours to edit.
Oh, yeah, but see, again, they could come in. It was so neat how it worked out. Like if you remember, like high school, you could go to a teacher that you already have an A in a class and say, listen, would it be okay if I go down to the studio and work? So they could show up during another class and go to work, if the place is open, or a study hall or lunch period.
I would have loved that in high school. That seems so fun to get out of lunch. I mean, I did that kind of in my high school. I would always go to the TV production lab. I love hearing that you did that. And from what you're describing, it seems like I was going to ask if other TV production programs in high schools and colleges have used yours as inspiration, and it definitely seems like they have. That's really incredible.
That, like back in the 90s, see, I did break-in period. So my first period of teaching was, the 71 time frame to 79. And that was up in North Jersey at Ramapo Indian Hills High School. That was the first high school that ever had closed circuit television put in, because one of my students' parents was the vice president of CBS, and they were throwing out all these old monitors. Okay,
they were
still good monitors. So I ended up with like 300 Conrack monitors. Each monitor back then, when they were new, like $4,000, I think. And then I would say, listen, I'd like to put them in. You want the stands, the mounts for the walls? Yeah. So I got those for free. Then the next thing was, I said, gee, I wish I had cable. I need some coax cable. So the next thing is I get a big roll of, like enough cable to wire the whole school. So during Christmas vacation of that 1 year, kids came in every day to the school. The school was closed. So kids wired the whole school. They put the F connectors on the end. They did distribution boxes. And when school started back up, we were doing morning news live. So that was cool. Everybody was like, this is great. Leave Smith alone.
Yeah, let him do his thing.
Yeah, he's not getting anybody in trouble. He's not hurting anybody. Just leave him alone. And he's not costing us money. All that gear I got for free. When I built the charter high school, now the charter high school was started in 2000, and we built a new facility, but I got from Dell 300 terminals. So I got 300 keyboards, 300 monitors, and then I wanted to build a gigantic room with all the servers in it, like Modern Film and Video had, so that when you're in English class and you're working on your final draft, because I had 300 licenses for final draft for all the kids.
Oh, that's amazing.
I had 300 licenses for EP products. So I had Movie Magic budgeting and scheduling. I had EP budgeting and scheduling back then. I had screenwriters software. So you had Movie Magic Screenwriter along with Final Draft. Every software that was out at the time, I actually got free from the company, to include AutoCAD, 3D Studio Max, and Animator Pro for the animation and design labs. So having that for free, you can spend money on other things. Now, I didn't have to pay for computers. That whole program was like a freebie. And the reason why I kind of got it was I tried to explain to especially Avid. I said to Avid people, it costs so much money to send an Avid person to school. It costs so much money for an Avid system. They were $55,000 back then, just for one editing little, computer and software. And I said, if I had this in a high school, I could train kids to be entry level. And I did the same thing with AutoCAD Autodesk. I said, if we could get this software, and I wanted it in the theater program so I can do set design and lighting design. That was my mission. If they learn it now, they can get a job entry level. They don't need to go to college. Seriously, it's just, I know that software, where most people didn't know that software. And they all went, that's a great idea. Because how much does it cost for software? what was nice was Avid. Avid was so impressed because I had students go to NAB in Vegas.
Mm-hmm.
So we would spend 4 or 5 days in Vegas, and I owned my own Avid back then. So my kids knew Avid. They would hang out at the Avid booth, and their kids.
Cool.
And the Avid people are going, like, get away, kid, you bother me. You know, what are you doing here, son? Don't touch them little keys, pretty colored one. And they would say, well, we have an Avid. And then they would go, excuse me, wait a minute, hold on. How old are you? You're in high school. How do you have an Avid? And they would say, Mr. Smith has an Avid. He brought it to school. We use it. And then the Avid people were staying in the same hotel that we were, and we would go in the hot tub, and they would show up in the hot tub. So I'd listen to their stories, and then the next day I said to the kids, go over to the Avid booth, and I want you to take the role of Final Cut, and I want you to take the role of Avid, and I want you guys to argue against each other, and Avid is the best program, and I want you to say, if it costs so much money to have an Avid, we could buy 20 Final Cuts.
Oh,
okay?
this is
So all I want you to do is argue between yourselves. Okay. They did. The one vice president of training heard them, said, who are you? Where is your teacher? They went and found me. I went back, right? I told them, I said, you know, do you understand that if I can teach entry-level kids on this, that it's cost-effective for me to have the Avid because I don't have to pay for the training of uptrain my person.
Mm-hmm.
And, they don't have to go crazy, but they'll get good at it. And Avid said yes, and then Avid actually supplied everything for 6 suites.
Oh, my God. Wow.
If you were in my TV, you call it a TV lab. If you were in the studio and you were a junior, you'd be one of the assistant editors. You may be there was a main assistant editor and there was a main senior editor. Okay, the senior person was my main editor. All projects went through him or her. That person had their own room, their own Avid suite room. And here's where I broke a law. You had a key to that door.
Oh.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
That door stayed locked. That was your room. And you got $125. Okay. Once you finish being a junior, this is cool because once you were a junior, you'd go, can we come in? Can we be, all summer I'd be up at school. You got $25 to decorate your room.
Oh, that's amazing.
So you could paint it the colors that you want. You could put your own posters up there. 2 rules. You couldn't go in there with any food or beverages.
Sure.
And you couldn't be alone in there with the opposite sex.
Right.
Those are the 2 things. That kept me straight.
It's
so
reasonable.
If anybody ever said something, they couldn't. That's the rule. And if you got caught doing it, you got fired instantly. There was no recourse. It was like you're fired. The junior guy moves up to the senior level. That's how it worked. It's the chain of command. Everybody jumped up. So they kind of policed themselves up, and never lost a tool, never lost a piece of equipment because of that. Because if somebody takes something, then we can't work. We can't do our job because it's missing. So again, trying to teach that dependability and responsibility thing, dependability, that when you go to work for somebody, think that way. Think that you own that. How would you treat your stuff? Don't go, that's okay, he doesn't care, or that's okay, it's not mine. See, because that shows. When you put it all together, I have 418 students of mine that are in this industry full-time. Since 1971 to 2004. I just found out that one of my students way back in the 70s, he is one of the principal designers for the new lighting system that's going into the NBC studios at 30 Rock.
Oh, whoa, okay. That's amazing. That's exciting.
ETC is this major company that does lighting. And I've got 3 students that work for that company, and 2 of them are vice presidents.
Oh, wow. For you to mentor that many people and see where they've gone, how far they've got, that must make you immensely proud. That must be incredible.
It's the difference between worried about making a lot of money and every day going to work and feeling good because you're not really going to work. You're going to go have fun.
Absolutely. Not long after we met, we had a phone call, which I thoroughly enjoyed, that lasted around 3 hours. And in that phone call, you recommended me 2 Peter Sellers films, After the Fox and A Shot in the Dark. If I remember correctly, you said you wish you had met Peter Sellers. So would you say he's your favorite actor?
I don't have favorites.
Okay.
I have favorite things, but I don't have favorites. I would like to have met him. I would love to teach a course about Peter Sellers.
Oh, that'd be great.
Because that's a true actor.
Yes.
Okay, I've worked with lots of people in my life.
Oh,
okay.
Yeah.
Some are just they're playing a role of an actor and they're playing a character, but they're the characters themselves. They can't play another character. Case in point is Drew Carey. No, wait, hold on.
Jim Carrey?
Jim Carrey.
Yeah.
Jim Carrey is a slapstick comedian. And then he tried to make serious movies, and they didn't make it.
Eternal Sunshine's pretty good.
Well, it's like people go, it didn't do well. Okay, they don't do well, and he stopped doing it. He had Richard Dreyfuss, who, nice guy, I got to meet, okay?
Oh.
Hollywood guy, grew up in Hollywood, a lot of money, his family. But he tried to do Shakespeare Live on Broadway, and it didn't make it. I mean, there are certain things that different people, but they play parts well, okay? Like Sean Connery, who I worked on with Presidio, right? He was in Presidio, that movie. And Sean's a great guy. Sean was in World War II. I mean, all these things about these people that you don't know. He was a coal mine digger guy, in his career.
No, I did not.
But he takes characters, doesn't worry about, he was bald when he was James Bond. And when he got to reach an age, he went, I'm just going to be bald again. They're just good people. Peter Sellers is one of those guys that can play multi parts and be good at it. And it would just be fun to watch him work and to talk to him. I think Woody Allen is one of the funniest guys going, but you got to like Woody Allen Jewish humor. And to be able to give a class on that and to explain that, if you give a class on it, you can explain things because you have to know the background of certain things. Okay. And if you know that, Abbott and Costello, Laurel and Hardy, really, really funny guys. Dick Van Dyke, who just turned 100, was a great, great entertainer. Again, they're all neat people, but there is not one. There are movies that I loved. I'll tell you, every film person should watch the movie Bowfinger.
Yes.
That's a great film. I use that film just to show for writers what exposition is. Watch the opening of that show and look how Frank Oz took you on a trip while he played a song right into Bowfinger's life. And the lighting is perfect. The camera work is excellent. He's got the foreshadowing. He's got the dog that as they go through and you're listening to this really cool song, the phone rings and it's Michelle from the phone company. And she goes, "This is Michelle for the phone company. We just want you to know that we are now allowed to go right in your house and take your phone out." And what was he saying? He doesn't pay his bills. He's poor. He hasn't accomplished anything. And as they're going along the side, you see Steve Martin's high school. When Steve Martin was in high school plays, they actually have his high school pictures that are on there. So you see all the glory that he has, all this glory of his life as he moved up. He played in Once Upon a Mattress at Summerstock. And you watch the pan, and then it goes over the couch, and there's a dog there, Daisy's dog. He's on the phone, and he's talking, and he's saying stuff. And the dog goes, and later on in the storyline, they need the dog again that goes, okay? So that's all foreshadowing. And then you hear him, he's looking at a script, and he's going, "This is great. This is great. This is great. I'm almost 50. And if I don't do this now, I'll never get a chance." Because everybody knows that every movie costs $2,184 to make.
That's very specific.
And I would say, let's go look. I'd watch it. We'd rewind that opening again. And I'd say, let's look at the lighting. Look how they have these amber lights in the corner, how they're positioned. Okay. Let's look at the camera work. I mean, that's, again, great. And I've got to meet a lot of those guys. Like I met Harold Ramis and I met John Candy in my life. And I met Dave Thomas. And, they're all kids that, I would tell students, learn the story of Orson Welles. Orson Welles did, and how he had money. He had a loft in New York City, and he told all these actor friends of his, "If you have no place to stay, come stay with me. And let's take all our talents and put them all together in a giant pool." So listen, today when you're going out to be the waitress, steal some rolls and bring them back so we have rolls. Okay, when you go audition for your part, say, "Hey, listen, I've got somebody who can play the part with you." And they made a pact, and the pact was that as they move along in life, if there's anything they're working on, they'll assist one of that group. And that's what he did. And it comes out really good in the movie Citizen Kane, because in Citizen Kane, he actually introduces those people that shared, that concept and lived in that loft. And it actually says, "This is so-and-so. He plays the part of so-and-so. This is Joseph Cotton. He plays the part of this." See, that's really neat. So when you learn the story, that's what John Candy and Rick Moranis and Catherine O'Hare and all those guys did back in Chicago. They all were in a film program, TV program, and theater program, okay, within those colleges up there. And they learned about Orson Welles. They said, why don't we do that? And they did that. And they said the same thing. In our careers, wherever we go, if there's a position for you, you got it. So they take care of each other as they go along there. And I think that's pretty cool.
Yes, and collaboration is everything. There's a saying, if you want to last, bring your friends with you. You had mentioned that you've met a lot of these Hollywood guys, and when you look at the list of films that you've worked on and those who star in these films, it is a striking list. It's really unbelievable. Was there anyone that you worked with that you were starstruck to meet?
Well, it was interesting. It's kind of interesting because I get this phone call that says, I need you to work on this project, and it stars Michael J. Fox. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh, wow, that's pretty cool. But it also stars Sean Penn.
Right.
And I was like, okay, because I'm not really paying attention. I know Michael J. Fox. Penn, I'm not really paying attention to in his career, to be honest with you. Right. His father was Arthur Leo Penn, who directed Bonnie and Clyde and many of the Twilight Zone TV series and the Untouchable TV series. So Penn was connected in Hollywood. But Fox.
Oh, I thought that.
You didn't know that?
Well, no, I did. I remember, now that you've mentioned it, I remember us talking about this before, and I looked it up. From what I read, I thought they weren't related.
No, that's his father, Arthur Leo Penn. He goes by Leo Penn in many of his projects, but his name is Arthur Leo Penn. Yeah, and
that must be it then.
Yeah, his mother was an actress, but yeah, no, he grew up in Hollywood. He's a Hollywood kid.
Oh, okay.
Fox, who seems like he should be a Hollywood kid, he's a kid from Canada that ran away from home and went to L.A.
Wow.
to break in. Yeah, because he failed his theater arts class.
Wow, that's hilarious, actually.
Yeah, he told me his whole life story. I've heard other people tell me different stories. I don't know what is out in books and stuff, but I just know what Michael told me. Because he would talk to me, he'd say to me, would you have given me an F? See, in Canada, apparently, if you're late to class or if you're late to school for 18 days or miss a class for 18 days, you don't get credit. Well, he was in an equity show. He would always be late for first period class, which was his theater arts class.
Uh-huh.
And he asked me, he said, what I've done. He said, I would have given you an independent study. My job is to get you where you're at performing, not hold you back to listen to me talk.
Right.
You should be doing that. Okay, I can talk to you about it anytime, but right now that's what you should be doing. That's what my job is as a teacher. Okay, so they failed him in that, and then he kind of got upset. His dad was in the Canadian Army. He was in communications, and then retired and became a postmaster, postman. Canada. Came from a big family, and I went to his wedding when he got married to Tracy.
Yeah.
But anyway, Michael was a cool guy, and it's cool listening to him. His stories and stuff, and how he got found. That's an interesting story by itself. But when you say, who am I? I'm not so much. See, you have to learn a certain way to behave with these people.
Of course, yes.
Okay, that's the most important thing. So what you want to do is you want to meet them as an equal, but you don't want to overwhelm them so that you think they're going to become your best friend.
Right. Yes.
Okay. This is their career. This is what they do. They'll talk to you. They'll ask you questions. Like, I'll tell you, sitting on a mountainside waiting to set up for a new location. I sat there with Fred Caruso and Brian De Palma and sat there, and Brian kept asking me war stories, and I kept him laughing. And he's like, you should write all this stuff down and write a book. And I went, nah, nobody cares. No. I'm just funny on my feet. See, I go back to, I'm funny on my feet. But what's interesting, Brian's a New Jersey guy. Listen to his stories about him, in his senior year and meeting Marcia Gacy and being all that good stuff. Again, it's just being able to sit down and talk, and then they'll say, hey, listen, what are you doing for dinner? And you go, whatever you'd like. It's fine. But you're not hooked up to them forever. It's interesting. I worked on Presidio. I can't remember what year that was, but I worked on Presidio. And then I was teaching, and then Sean Connery actually called the school.
Wow, okay.
When I was teaching. And that was the funniest part, that he found me. I don't know. I don't know how he found me.
He tracked you down. Bond knows how to track someone down.
He did track me down. He tracked me down. He called that school, and I got hired at that school like overnight. It was like I knew a guy that was he was the president of the board of ed, and he wanted me to create all the TV and film stuff that I did in North Jersey. Mm-hmm. This is a South Jersey school. And I said I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to teach. I was all done with doing this stuff. So he challenged me. I said, how much money do you have to put this program together? He goes, no money. I said, oh, this is swell. Okay. Let me ask you a question. Do I have a room? He goes, yes. I'll give you a chorus room. We have a high school without a chorus. I was like, excuse me? You need help. Yeah. Okay. So I said, all right, got the room? Yeah. I said, and if I go out and get stuff, I don't have to listen to red tape. I can't get this. I'm not allowed to do that. I got to wait for permission. He goes, no. And that was the school that I got the cable hooked up for free, mm-hmm. so we could broadcast. But I was there for like, I don't know, maybe it was a month, 3 months. So anyway, Sean Connery calls. Now, the people don't know me. They don't know how I got hired. Mm-hmm. Seriously, they don't know any of that stuff. And they gave me an English class, a ninth grade English class, because this programs weren't, I had to write the programs. They weren't there yet. So I have this ninth grade Dirty Dozen English class. And the phone goes on the wall. I answer the kids go, it's over there. I answer and they go, Mr. Smith, this is June from the office. I wonder, we have a gentleman that's on the phone that says he's Sean Connery, and we don't know if it's a prank call, but people say that like you worked on movies. And I said, it could be Sean. And then she stopped. She goes, you know Sean Connery? And I went, yes, I do. We'll put the teacher in your room for a second. Could come down and talk. I went down to the office, the main office. They had the phone like ready to hand me. Around me was the entire guidance department, all the secretaries, the vice principals, the principal, everybody like just sitting there listening. And Sean says to me, what are you doing? And I said, I'm teaching. He goes, you're back teaching again? I go, yeah. And he says, listen, I'd like to do lunch with you today. And I go, whoa. Where are you? And he goes, I'm up at, he goes, I'm in North Jersey. I have to go to Caldwell. And you know where that is? He goes, I know where that is. I said, Sean, that's like an hour and a half, 2 hours away. Where I am. He goes, well, we can do lunch, like at 3. I want to go to a Bennigan's. Now, this is Sean Connery talking about going to a Bennigan's, yes. Right? And so I said, a Bennigan's? Now, it's funny. I'm looking at all those people, and they're all like going, Bennigan's? Like, they think you should go to the Brown Derby. You should go to Ruth Chris, Fleming's, someplace nice, right? And he says, oh, Art, you're going to love it. He says, you ever have a Monte Cristo? And I went, no. And he goes, oh, it's a great sandwich, and it comes with raspberry jam. With the raspberry part, right? So I looked at everybody in the office, and they went, you can go. We'll cover your class, right? So I said, yeah, I'll meet you. And then I left and went up. The next day I go back, and everybody's like, how do you know him? And I go, well, I know a lot of people because I worked on different projects. See, it's funny when you talk to people about what you work on, and you low profile it, they all think you're making it up until they see a picture. Course, I used to love the Good Morning Vietnam thing because people would say, you didn't work on Good Morning Vietnam. I go, I didn't? And they go, no. Why? Because I looked you up on the credits and you're not on the credits. I go, you're right. I'm not. Why not? I said, because Robin Williams wants that famous song to play at the end. The skies are blue, things are green, all that stuff, right? Well, you understand a movie has to fit within a certain time constraint. It can't, it doesn't go, I'll have it go forever, or right. I'll have it go, there's a certain period, and there's a certain period that has to be for television. There's television rights. This is about making money on your return. They opted, a lot of people, to buy you out of the credits, so you get a check.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
So I will bet you, that I worked in that movie. And the people will say, what? I say, you got $1,000? And then I go, no, $500. No. All right, $20? Yeah, okay. I come home and I take the pay stubs that I've kept. And I go, there you are. And they go, oh, holy crow. And, I'm going to tell them that story again, that you don't always have to be on there. And then a long time ago, IMDb was real difficult. It's not difficult anymore. But it was really difficult because as a production manager, you had to, I had to submit for everybody. Mm-hmm. Okay? They have to submit for everybody. So the administrative people are going, all right, they're opted out. We don't have to worry about that. They're opted out. We don't have to worry about that. And the same thing with credits. People don't get that there's a whole process of just doing credits, that there are mm-hmm. people that are like credit gurus that make sure that everything is spelled correctly. Because once they put those on there, if there's a complaint and you have a contract in the contract that says how the credit should be, and that's not right, then somebody gets money, and somebody has to find that money because the movie's over.
Right.
So now you got to find it. Right. See, that's a lot of people don't understand the business side of the film, which I was lucky that I was able to learn from some really great guys that do it well. So I just picked up, learn this, don't do this, do that, do this, do that. Make sure you do this, make sure you do that. That's what I try to tell people. I'm working on a project right now with a student, and there's a scene where there's a water scene, okay, in a lake. And I'm helping her, showing her how to break down a script and the production schedule and shooting schedule, like that stuff. And I said to her, you don't have any money. I said, you have a problem. Why? You're trying to enter water in Florida to shoot this at night. You know that things that live in water in Florida at night eat you?
Yep, they do.
Yep. I said, you may not see them. You may not think they're there. But what would you do if that had happened? And it has happened. Right? I said, you have to rethink that. Okay, you don't have insurance, so you need to stop and look at what you're doing and build your foundation so it's strong. So usually what I try to tell people is look at what you're doing. We can do that. We can create that scene. They can't figure it out yet. I know that. So they're going, well, we can't do it. We can shoot that scene. We can use a swimming pool, and we can do it at night. If we can find a swimming pool that somebody is like real pro and says, okay, you can put blue dye in the water. Okay, and you put the blue dye in the water at night, it will stop that reflection from the bottom of the pool. So it looks like you're in a lake.
Yeah.
Real simple. And she's sitting there splashing around, and then she goes in the deep end. We don't have to do any of that. Really, we can figure all that out in the shallow end so that the equipment that you're going to use doesn't have to get splashed upon, doesn't have to get this, because somebody owns that stuff. And accidents happen. So you need to stop and think it all out. But they don't, it's like, we can't. We have to do that. Well, if you do that and you do that wrong, it can come back and bite you. If you have any money, all right, what you want to do, if you're shooting something with somebody, and here's the deal, you talk to people, you go, where's this going? Well, I wanted to go to film festivals. Why? So somebody can see it, maybe buy it. That's a commercial endeavor. That's different than doing something as a hobby and for fun. So when you start doing things as a commercial endeavor, the laws change. They're not on your side for when you do things that you haven't planned well. Okay? So that's what you need to think about. So I would say there's Hub Insurance, there's other insurance companies out there, but you got a 8-page short or 8-minute short or whatever it could be. Talk to them and see what they say. And say, listen, we can do this for you. So if you're at somebody's house and they knock over, grandma's lamp that's been in the family for years, okay, you don't have somebody coming back to try to nail you.
Yeah.
Or you have something that happens where somebody gets hurt. You have something that covers you. And that's like the professional side of doing things. So anyway, that's why I try to tell them, do that. Also, an important thing is when you're working with people and you're script writing, you deal in the intellectual property world. So I try to tell people, you have friends and they're friends right now. Okay. So what you want to do is if you co-write a script, you want to do a contract with each other. I can help women and film members with that, but you want to do that. And if you have somebody that's working for you, do it as a work for hire contract for the day so they can't come back and haunt you. Let's pretend that your short ends up making $1 million. Then all of a sudden, everybody's going to come out of the woodwork and they can sue you. They will win when you're done because it's going to be like this. Your attorney's going to say it's going to cost you more money to fight this than to pay it off. Even though you're in the right, okay, it doesn't matter if you're in the right or not. It matters that there's a system out there that people can use to screw you. But if you do the work for hire thing, and you say $1, here's $1 for the day or for however long, all right, now you're protected. So having an attorney work with you, what's nice, I'm going to plug Women in Film. What's nice about being a member of Women in Film is when somebody has a question like that, they can go through me. And then I can ask attorneys and get an answer for you in a lot of cases.
Yes.
And we get discounts from attorneys that help people. Same thing with the insurance.
And actually, just when you were talking about the whole filming in the lake, it started to make a little bit more sense why Titanic, the famous scenes towards the end of the film were filmed in a pool. Everyone makes fun of that little behind-the-scenes fact, but it's starting to make sense. And Leonardo DiCaprio is one of the many, many actors that you've worked with. You worked with him on Celebrity. He only had a brief role in it, but still, that's amazing.
Well, there's another Hollywood guy,
Oh, yes.
right? See, Hollywood people, Hollywood people stay within Hollywood people. That's kind of how it works. Okay. Yes, we shot that in Atlantic City. I can't remember the name of the casino. I might have been Trump Towers. I'm not too sure. Anyway, that was an interesting scene because that was Woody Allen's movie.
Right.
Yeah. And it worked like this. I was hired to work on something called Ocean City, and that stars. Oh man, I can't think of the kid's name. God, he used to play Mark Twain. Hal Holbrook.
Oh yeah,
and
All the President's Men.
And Matthew Broderick. Okay. So all right, so I got students. All right, so we're all ready to go. The night before, I get a call. You said you wanted to work with Woody Allen. Oh man, I love to work with Woody Allen. All right, can you show up tomorrow morning at 100 hours? Okay, to work on Celebrity. I'm like, oh man, right. So I figured I could figure it out. I worked this out, right? I dropped my students off. I said, I'll be back for the Ocean City project. Now I go back and I go up to the elevator to the floor where they got the whole floor blocked off. And I'm going, hi, I'm Art Smith. He goes, yes, Mr. Smith's here. And I went, no, I'm Art Smith. And he goes, no, Mr. Smith's here with his students.
Oh, uh-oh.
Right. Well, what happened was when the call came in, I was teaching my college class at night. And I said, boy, it'd be fun if you guys could show up. And the college kids showed up. And
without you?
Without me, right.
Oh, my God.
I thought this was really cool. You know what they were doing? They were pulling the Smith. This was excellent. They went, they used everything. Like, I couldn't get mad at them. And so I was like going, but I'm Art Smith. Here, you want to see, I've had all these IDs here. You want to see my press pass? So I thought that was pretty funny. So then when I show up, I'm like, now I go along and go, you're Art Smith? Yeah. Well, who are these guys? These are my students that are here. I told them if I could bring students. They said yes. And I went, which one of you guys is Mr. Smith? They never admitted who is Mr. Smith, right, when they got in. But anyway, Woody's cool. Woody, quiet guy. He talks to you. He tells jokes. See, a lot of these guys, which is really cool, is they play off of other lines of famous comedians. So, like, for example, when I meet somebody and they say, how you doing today? And I go, great. Just remember what my friend Laurel said. Say, Ollie, life isn't short enough. When the cat's away, the mice are always running around having a good time. Right? And they look at you and go, oh, wow, that was pretty cool. And see, because I take that and change it to life isn't short enough. Right? So, okay. So Woody loves stuff like that. So they play you off of you. Robin Williams did that. See?
Oh, I can't imagine how far he went with those. He must have been a riot.
See, I mean, yeah. Like he was like a Wikipedia. I didn't know what Wikipedia was back then, but he was like a Wikipedia guy. He loved it. He would say, who are we doing today? Like this. And then I would talk to him about when I was going to jump school and I was afraid of heights, and I went to the sergeant there. The sergeant goes, Smith, you're next. And I go, I don't want to go, Sergeant. Please don't make me go. I don't want to go. Don't make me go, Sergeant. I don't want to go do that. Don't do that. And then he would go, oh my God, that's Jerry Lewis, And Jerry Lewis was in a movie that was called You're in the Army Now. And that's the same line he used when he was going to jump school. See? And Robin would know that. And then Robin would play off of that. And then people would get mad because we're supposed to be working.
Right. Of course.
That's something too. Robin Williams, I don't know Robin Williams on set as the actor or Robin Williams in real life. It's like really tough because his ad-libbing is Robin Williams and he puts that into his character, but it's not his character. You know what I mean? It's like the fine line between that. He's a funny guy.
Seemed to always be entertaining, like constant entertaining, kind of a shell to knowing who he really was.
Yeah. I mean, you could go to him and say, there's a girl in a wheelchair that would love to meet you. He'll leave. He'll walk right off and go over and meet the kid.
Oh,
kind of deal. That's
so nice.
That's how he was.
I got to ask about, gosh, I'm looking at this list of all these people that you worked with. I mean, Robert Redford, Barbra Streisand, I mentioned Leonardo DiCaprio, Charlize Theron, Donald Sutherland, you mentioned Sean Penn. And you've worked on 2 films each with De Niro, Jack Nicholson, and Morgan Freeman. Especially... Oh, yes, go ahead.
No, Jack Nicholson is from New Jersey.
Oh, yes.
And Jack Nicholson went to Manasquan High School. And every year he was given Manasquan High School 2 $10,000 scholarships for their theater program.
That's amazing.
And he has a plaque that is up in the school that says, "Thanks to what I didn't learn here, I was able to succeed."
Okay, Jack.
Now, you're going to love this one, right?
Bet I will.
So, in my Army career, I had to go to the New Jersey State Police graduating class of the year, and be on the dais as one of the representatives for the Army.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So the governor of the state of New Jersey would always be there. So anyhow, I'm there, and the principal's doors open in and folded back. They were like double doors.
Mm-hmm.
And so they would fold back into his office. And behind the door, I see a picture of Jack Nicholson. And I look and I peek behind the door, and I open it up, I push the door to try to close to move it so I can see it. And I'm reading the thing. And Governor Tom Kane was the governor at the time, and he says, "Captain Smith," he says, "you looking at Jack Nicholson's plaque?" And I was like, "Yeah." He goes, "Read it to everybody." So I moved the door away, and I read the plaque. So I knew that plaque was there. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So when we were working on anger management, I had 51 students work on that. And we worked a night for a whole
treat.
week. And Yankee Stadium, right? So Yankee Stadium was closed. We had the New York Yankees and the Boston Red Sox teams there. Like all the players were there working on the movie. And my kids, they came as extras, but they also came to position the cardboard cutouts.
Oh,
the rest
yeah.
of the backgrounds, yeah. Each kid was given like 10 cardboard cutouts, and we moved them around, and we all had radios and stuff. It was cool. So when you watch the movie again, you'll see a scene where Adam Sandler's trying to get a hold of Melissa Tomei that he wants to marry her on the marquee board.
Yes,
up there.
Jumbotron,
Well,
yeah.
Look at that scene behind it. Any kid that looks like a student is one of my kids.
Oh,
And
okay.
So when it was over, when we were cut wrapping, we were all done. Director and producer people were all in the front there. They come up and they said, "Before we leave, we'd like to thank Mr. Smith and his students for being here, and thank you. You guys did a great job," and all that stuff. And then he says to me, "We hear you imitate Jack Nicholson." And I went, "Who'd you hear that from?" And they went, "Tom, your student director." He was in charge of, like, I put a student always in charge,
Mm-hmm.
right, of the project. So I said, "Really? Did Tom tell you he was graduating next year? Because I don't think that's going to happen then."
No.
And everybody laughed. And they go, "Come on, can you do them?" And I'm like, "Well, I need glasses." Well, they had glasses there. And during that time period, I always used to wear Hawaiian shirts because I had a lot of Hawaiian shirts from working on Magnum. So Jack Nicholson wears Hawaiian shirts. Okay.
Yes.
So I had that, when the Hawaiian shirt's on, it's outside your pants. So I go up, oh man, I can't believe this, because I hate being put on the spot, right? This way. So anyway, I get up there and I go, "I wonder why I invited you all here today to be part of this project. I want to tell you the story about me and my career in Manasquan High School." And then I go and tell the story about the plaque. Well, Nicholson shows up. If you look at the way that site location was, it's tiered up, and then there's like an opening in the middle. There's a walkway down, and there's people on both sides. Nicholson's standing in that opening, okay? And he's rocking back and forth with his arms folded.
Oh, no.
And I'm imitating him, right?
Yeah.
And then I see him, he takes his arm like from that, and he gives me like the come here finger, like up in the air, come here. And then I went, sorry, I did my Stan Laurel thing, and go back there, and he goes, "I want to ask you a question. How do you know all that about me?" And I told him. And I said, about state police, about. He goes, "Another question. That plaque, that goddamn plaque, that's up there, right? Because if not, I want my money back." Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
So that was funny.
Yes, I remember you told me a story about Jack. I think it was on the set of Anger Management. I think it was that one. And you also worked with him on the Bucket List, one of his very last films.
Yeah.
That was
Bucket List.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, you go ahead.
No, with Bucket List, what happened was I get a phone call that says, "We need your help. And you got a lot of cool ideas." They said to me, "So we need something at the end of this film. They die and they're going to be cremated, and they want to put them like on Mount Everest or something like that.
In coffee cans.
So we need something. Yeah, we need something to put it in. Okay, what are you thinking about?" And I said, "Well, how about a large-sized coffee can, number 10?" And they went, "What do you mean?" I go, "You want one?" I said, "You know what you want? You want one that says chock full of nuts, because it's that heavenly coffee that the money can't buy." That was the advertisement for us growing up, on TV. So we would recognize that song. They would recognize that song. They went, "Oh, that's brilliant. Where can we get them?" And I went, Well, you're in luck because at that time I was keeping Silver Lining Studios alive in Orlando. And I said, I have a props room upstairs and I have, I think, a few of those cans that are filled with nuts and bolts. He goes, how many? I said, I don't know. I got to go up and check. I had 12 cans because here's the thing. When you think of an idea like that, you have to have always more than one. Because if you only have one and then you shoot, okay, and then the next day you go looking for the can, where'd the can go? The art department used it for paint. Are you kidding me? So you want as many as possible. So if they get wrecked or destroyed, you have enough to back yourself up. So I became a hero again.
Yes.
Right? I said, I got them for you. And Morgan Freeman was cool. Morgan Freeman is 1970s. Don't know the year. In New York City, there's the Public Theater. And Morgan Freeman was directing Shakespeare's I, Claudius, that nobody ever reads. They don't read it in high schools. And he directed it with an entire black cast. Well, I had my kids read it. And I had what was called a directorship back then. So it only cost me $3 a ticket for students to go see any of the plays in New York.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So I could bring 14 kids with me because I had a 15-passenger van. And we leave New Jersey at 4 o'clock to make it over the tunnel by 6 o'clock. If you didn't make it into the city by 6, you weren't going to see that show because of the traffic. You couldn't get in. So we pull up. As we pull up, kids are getting out of my van, and they see Morgan walking down the street. And my kids go like this. Hey, that's the guy from Sesame Street.
Oh, my God. Sesame Street.
Right? Okay. And I go, okay, we'll go say hi. Tell them you like his, you know how to handle yourself. So the kids run over, right? All 14.
They run towards him, all 14?
Or all 14 go over to in a group, and they go see him.
Oh, my gosh.
So Morgan says, why are you here? And we're going to see a play in the Public Theater. And Morgan goes, well, what play? Because no way in the world that these little white kids were going to be watching this, all black cast thing. And I, Claudius Shakespeare. Okay. So they go, oh, we're going to see I, Claudius. Now, they don't know that Morgan's directing it. I didn't know that Morgan was directing it. I didn't know that. That just happened. So Morgan says, wait, hold on. We already read it. You know about I, Claudius? You go, yeah, we've read it in class. You have. Where's your teacher? And I'm like, I always stay back. Let them do their thing.
Yes.
So I walk up and I meet him, right? And he says, why do you come here so early? I tell him, if you don't get across that bridge. And he's like, oh, yeah, I know that traffic. Well, what are you going to do now? I said, well, normally what we do is we go over, because the Public Theater is over by NYU. I said, there's a really nice pizza place around the corner that we go to. And he goes, would you mind if I joined you?
Oh, my God.
And I said, no. So anyway, we go over, we'll have pizza, right? And then he says to me, when you get back, he says, I have to leave. So he has to go get ready. He says, when you get back, stop at the box office. I'll have something for you. So we get to the box office. Morgan upped our seats to front row mezzanine.
Oh, wow.
Which was nice.
That's so nice.
And then with a note said, I'm going to do notes after the show. Would you and your students like to stay? So I immediately said to all my kids, I went, we're going to do this. Get on the phone right now. We didn't have cell phones. You had a payphone. Get on the phone right now. Call your parents, okay, and tell them that I'm not coming home until those notes are done because I don't want to miss this. And if they want you to be home, they can drive to New York City and get you. But they all got permission to stay. So we stayed and we listened to them give all the notes. It's really, it was reinforcement of what I would do as their theater arts teacher. Because I would do all that. See, with real people doing it, and it's like, oh, wow. Now I understand why. It's like when you're doing it in school, you think it's part of the class.
Right.
But they don't get that they do it in the real world. I'm not doing it because it's part of the class. I'm doing it because you do this with all your stuff. He's a neat guy. He's really another, another guy. I don't know if you know this. Do you know he was in the Army?
I did, because that photo of him that's used at the end of the film for his funeral was a real photo of him.
Yeah, he was in the Army. I was going to tell you that, if you didn't know that.
I just recently rewatched it for this episode, and it's a very good film. It's one that lasts in the hearts of many with its powerful messages about life and reflections on it in one's final months.
Well, true. And you know what's interesting? Here's a story, the storyline. Here's Jack Nicholson, penny pitcher kind of guy, owns all these hospitals, and he can't get a single room.
Nope. Bad PR.
Right. That's interesting. And then who's next to him? A self-made guy.
Mm-hmm.
And they become friends. And one of the best lines, like this continuous line within that movie goes, but Morgan Freeman goes, what do you do?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When he's on the private jet, what do you do? What do you do? That's pretty cool.
What impact did closely working on that film have on you?
It did, again, it's just opportunities to meet new people, opportunities to help out. That's the way it is on basically on all the projects that I worked on. It's like seeing Brian De Palma again when you here you are, you work on one movie with him, and then you get a call, you work on another movie with him, and then you work on another movie. And he doesn't make movies like every year. He makes movies like every 2 years, every 3 years. He waits till a good project comes along. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, it was neat to walk up to him on the set of Snake Eyes in Atlantic City. And then it's like the stories that you talked about teaching in the past are now new stories I'm teaching in the future. Mm-hmm. See, because I left and I became a teacher again. Then I'm working on Snake Eyes, and I'm coming with students working. So I'm back to that again. So it's like, you really love this stuff. Like Steve Burham was the director of photography. He's a cool guy. He was in the Army too, during the same time I was. Steve would always ask me about education, and he always wanted, I think, to be a teacher and stuff. And our paths go away. So, everything changes, phone numbers change, emails change. You lose these people till all of a sudden you see them again. Stephen Baldwin was here in Orlando at what's it called, the Christian Film Festival, and he was a guest speaker. Mm. And somebody said to me, "Oh, are you going to hang around to listen to Stephen Baldwin talk?" And I said, "Wait, hold on, Stephen Baldwin's here?" They went, "Yeah." I said, "Where?" "Well, you can't see him. He's going to be a speaker. You can't get to him." I go, "I know him. As a matter of fact, in my house, I still have 5 or 6 T-shirts that belong to him that he ordered when he was in Thailand that he never picked up. And that when I sent them out, they kept being returned, right? And then when I met his brother said, "I don't want them."
Right.
Right. So they went, "You can't do this," right? I just walked around the corner. I saw him where he came out of the elevator. He looked at me. He came right over. He called me Major Smith, gave me a big hug.
Oh, I remembered you.
Yeah, he remembered me. Oh, yeah. Yeah, just, it's like, I don't see anybody. Another one that I really got confused with, I worked on TAPS. Mm-hmm. We shot that at the Valley Forge Military Academy. And I forgot that Sean Penn was in that movie.
Right.
So now I'm in Thailand with Sean Penn, and I either have lunch with Michael and dinner with Sean, or lunch with Sean, dinner with Michael. It would be every other day kind of thing, because we would talk.
That's incredible.
It wasn't always together. It was like separate. Huh. But a guy comes to me that I hired that worked with me on other films that they needed out there. And he goes, "Did Sean recognize you?" And I went, "Recognize me for what?" And he says, "When you were on TAPS. Remember you told me I used the M60 machine gun?" Mm-hmm. And I was like, "TAPS?" And I guys never paid attention. That was Sean Penn.
Oh, you didn't remember him?
I didn't remember him at all, to be honest with you, because it was like, I wanted to work on TAPS for one reason. I wanted to meet, oh God, I hate getting old. I wanted to meet George C. Scott.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
And George C. Scott never spent one moment on set in Pennsylvania on that film.
How come?
So they got me to work on it. It was really funny. They said, you want to meet George C. Scott? I went, "Oh, man, I'd love to meet George C. Scott." All right, so I'll work on the movie. They never told me that he wasn't allowed. So I go, "When's George C. Scott showing up?" And then they said, at the end when we were all done, he said, "He's not. All his scenes are being shot in California."
Oh.
And I was, "You're kidding me." No, I said, no. But anyway.
That's a bummer.
It was that was a fun movie. So we used the Pennsylvania National Guard for these soldiers. And again, it's like, the people they're fun to be with, and they ask you for help, and they, like, the ones that have never been in the military ask about, "Am I doing this right? Am I doing this right? Am I doing this?" Like Big Rames. Big Rames was in Casualties of War.
Yeah.
And he wanted to learn to be a lieutenant. So we laid down, there's lines were all about calling for mortars. We laid down, and I taught him how to call for fire for mortars and stuff. And they do it on their own time too. They'll say, "Can we have time to do this? Can you help me with this later on?" And I'll go, "Sure." A lot of them. Don Hardy was another good one that was there. John Guglielmo.
Oh, yeah. Early role for him.
Yeah. And John C. Reilly.
C. Reilly, yeah.
That's another one. I didn't realize how talented Reilly was.
I remember you telling me about how you were very impressed by Sean Penn.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Penn goes into that character like 100%. I mean,
wow.
When you're all set, he's still called he was like sir, major, all that like military stuff, all on the line. He learned how to disassemble and assemble every weapon that was used during that time period by himself, even ones that that weren't. You didn't have to do it in the movie. He wanted to feel what it would be like to do that. He always goes out, I think, and finds like a prosthetic device for something to change his appearance, like his teeth, his eyes, color of his hair. Like when he was in Carlito's Way, he turned himself into a Jewish-looking lawyer kind of guy.
Yeah.
Really good. And the other thing too was his brother Chris was going to be in a movie, and he asked if I would work with Chris. I said yes. So then I figured out a way that they could shoot real live. Like Sean wanted to shoot the weapons with real live ammo. Well, I had 600 Thai soldiers under my command there for this. So I made the arrangements. I got permission from the production company so nobody would get hurt.
What?
And they went out, and Sean and Chris learned how to fire the .50 caliber and the M60 and the M16 rifle and the 203 grenade launcher.
He sounds like kind of method in his approach.
Yes. Yeah. Well, when you come from that kind of background, you have somebody else's attitudes because you've lived with them on how they do things or how they perceive things in the industry, I think. And you look at other people that are in competition with you that don't have any talent, or like, again, they just look the part and they just say the words, but they're not doing what Sean did. But again, John C. Reilly, I didn't realize that he could sing and dance and be Mr. Cellophane and all that stuff.
Oh yeah, he was Oscar nominated for Chicago, I believe, years later.
Yeah. But he doesn't, again, you don't see John do much,
He sticks with his comedy genre.
Yeah.
Thinking about Sean Penn's approach, it's very different from Jack Nicholson's approach. He says it's all about relaxation. And I could devote a whole episode asking about Nicholson. I'm such a fan of his. But someone we haven't mentioned... Oh, I'm such a Jack fan. Like, when I first got into watching older films from the 70s, it was him and Robert Redford that I really kind of went down the rabbit hole. And you did work with Robert Redford on one of the very first films that you ever worked on.
That was Barbra Streisand's movie, The Way We Were.
Yeah. I'm so curious, like, what you thought of him and what your take was of him behind the scenes and his process.
Well, we only did, I forget, it wasn't long. We only did like a week, maybe.
Oh, okay.
They shot, I want to say in Clifton, New Jersey. I'm trying to remember where it was, but it was like a regular, normal house, And again, a lot of people think he's tall. He's not really tall.
Really?
That's yeah, he's not really tall. Like Mike, he looks taller on camera than he does in real life. And and like Michael J. Fox is tiny, but he, he's a California guy. He went to Beverly Hills High School.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, he knew Natalie Wood.
Yes.
It was,
yeah.
I think he was a class above hers. See, when people find out that you're a teacher kind of person, they always, we talk school stuff and everything about where you went to school and what you did. Right. It kind of like happens in a conversation, especially if I start talking about, my career. They'll tell you stuff about their career. He created Sundance.
Yes, very successful film festival, still going today.
Yes,
amazing.
Because he was mad at the Hollywood people for the way that they produce things. And he's an interesting guy. Likes to do, I think he flew. He liked to fly a plane. Oh. He talked about that. I'm trying to think, there isn't much I can remember, to be honest with you, about him.
Well, Barbra Streisand, I know you're friends with her husband, James Brolin. Yeah. Was that how you became friends with Barbra that early on, or was it later through James?
No. Okay. I worked with Barbra on that movie, and then I worked on projects with Brolin, but Brolin's married to her. That's how that kind of works.
I see. Okay.
Yeah, it's a very interesting relationship, with the hacienda up on the hill. But Jim's another good guy to work with. He's down to earth. We had a big, huge storm when we were shooting in Eleuthera, and it was blowing all the tents and everything down.
Oh my gosh!
And safety-wise, I have to tell people you got to get out. You can't be out in the thunder and lightning. Okay, you're not allowed to be out here. Don't come out here. So I'm out there, and I'm out there by myself, and I'm trying to rescue all the stuff that's blowing away. And he came out. And then he came out, and the other guys came out, and I go, you're not supposed to be here. And he goes, shut up. He used to call me Colonel. He used to say, how's the Colonel doing? Yeah. How's the Colonel doing today? And, he would say, listen, just get me a Jeep. I don't need a driver. I don't need this. I just get me a Jeep. What are we doing? What are we going to eat? What are we doing? Like cool stuff like that. That's what I'm saying. He's a really, really, really neat guy that way. He's really super down to earth.
How long have you been friends?
Since 2004, maybe 5.
20-year friendship.
Maybe even earlier.
Wow, that's amazing.
Somewhere in 2000 to today. He gave me a picture of him on a horse. I have it here on my wall.
Did he sign it and everything?
Yeah. It's signed. You'd be surprised. I have this wall of all my stuff. I've taken every script that I've ever worked on, and I've put the script inside a frame thing, like it's like a holder, and you're up on the wall, with something like pictures of the people or pictures with me and the people, just signed things. Like I have Robin Williams' signature on his script, which is really cool.
You sent me a PDF.
His signature is like hieroglyphic signature, not like a normal signature. I have all that stuff on the wall. I have a wall, and I have like the Academy stuff on the top, and then there's my Army wall, and then there's my hat wall. Like I have all hats from like Panavision, AFI, CNN, ABC. Yeah.
Oh my God.
What you want to do is you want to start collecting something.
Yes.
I have props from different things I've worked on that I'm allowed to take. So I have those, and you can remember it. And my standard operational uniform, and you kind of know this, is always short. And like I've changed from Hawaiian shirts to now the fisherman shirts. You buy them at Bell's, really good deal. And I like those now, but I still have my collection of Hawaiian shirts.
Yeah, your uniform.
But that's what you want to do. You want to, you want to save. You want to start saving something. And what's tough for me is I get so busy, I don't get pictures. And the people that take your picture, I don't ever get those. So there's phases I don't have anything of anything. Like I have pictures of working on Fool's Gold.
With McConaughey and Kate Hudson.
Yeah, I don't have me in the pictures, but I have pictures because people gave it to me and said they got a picture of Donald Sutherland and Matt McConaughey.
I haven't seen that one. I've only saw McConaughey and Hudson's first collaboration, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. I've been meaning to watch Fool's Gold, though. I wanted to ahead of this interview, but it's not available anymore.
Well, if you watch it, when you see the guns, they're in a case right here in my office. Right here. I'm looking at it. They're in a glass case. They look real, but they're not. They're prop guns.
I remember you sent me a PDF of the Goodfellas script with all these signatures, which was
that's
unbelievable.
The names of the principal players and Martin Scorsese. And yes, I think that's it. All the people on there. It's hard to decipher some of them who they are.
Yeah.
I always point out Martin's name. They go, that's Martin's name there. And De Niro's name you see up in the corner. But everybody else, that's all their names. That was a thank you present I got.
Wow. I have so many more questions about who you've worked with. I could keep going, but I do want to get to talking about WIFT because, as I mentioned, you were a longtime board member of WIFT, Women in Film and Television, in Florida. And before I ask you about the new programs, for those who don't know, what is WIFT and what can members expect when they join?
Okay, well, WIFT is Women in Film Television, Florida, which is a chapter of a larger organization called Women in Film US. Women in Film US was created many, many years ago. The headquarters in Los Angeles and New York City, the big place. But throughout the United States, there's chapters where films are being made, like Atlanta and Dallas, Boston, Washington, D.C., and on and on and on. Okay, so what does Women in Film do is Women in Film was originally established so that women could get together and then try to promote themselves. Well, when the rules changed and you have to have equal rights, so that's why I'm involved. I was a member of the New York chapter. Coming to Florida, there were no professional organizations. Women in Film is a professional organization. It is not just like a club. Okay, so knowing that, when I came here, I said, what do we have in Florida? Well, they didn't have anything except the Florida Motion Picture and Television Association, which were local people, and it was like a club. Okay, I joined that too, but that folded, and Women in Film was there, so I joined Women in Film, and then I became the secretary of Women in Film. Now, being the secretary of Women in Film, I said, we need to look at what we want to do. And in Florida, because it's such a large state, Orlando is the center of Women in Film. It's the hub. Mm-hmm. It's the headquarters. So what we need to do is we need to figure out, can we get other locations that we can expand to, and we'll call them branches. So each branch is just a location towards the headquarters of Orlando. So Florida now has 6 branches. It took me 7 years to get that approved through Women in Film, because Women in Film people said, we're professionals, we have memberships, we don't need it. Florida lost most of its production work. So big companies like Panavision, Last Stage Out of Town, all left Florida, went to Georgia, different places. So we went from a membership of like 4,000 down to 136 people.
Whoa.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
That's a lot, because we lost all that corporate sponsorship. Okay. So anyhow, I go back to Women in Film again here, and I said, we need to create different memberships because we can't find the professionals. The professionals have left. There's still some here, and they're still members, okay? But we need to find other memberships. So let us write up a friend membership. What's a friend? Someone who works in the industry that can't find a job? Okay, that's a friend. Someone who likes film and doesn't want to work in the industry? That's a friend, okay? But we need to find something for these people to do in between what I call purgatory, okay? Because they finish school, but there's no work. Then I said we need to create a student membership so we can get students involved in it right away. Now, advantages for each one. For example, if you're a student and you join, it's $25 a year to be a student member. And what's nice is about being a student member, you can create a new column on your resume saying professional organization. Put down Women in Film. Because when I look at hiring somebody and I look at a resume and I see you're a member of Women in Film, that means that you are up and above and beyond just being a student, that you've gone out of your way to find out who the players are in our industry and have joined to become one of those members. So I will tell you this right now, I will hire anybody that's got that on there before somebody who doesn't.
All right.
Okay?
Yeah.
So that's one of the advantages that I see. Another advantage is that if you're a student, if you're a high school student, because high school students can join, you want to put that on your resume when you apply if you're going to go in this profession. So if you're going to major in TV and film, put it on your resume so that who's ever looking at that department, they see the same thing, that you've gone out of your way to do this. You're actually being involved in the profession. And I would rather have that student than one who thinks that they're going to be, you know, a director and Steven Spielberg's going to find you tomorrow, that kind of deal.
Right.
Okay? So I like that. I like that idea. A friend membership, you get to take our classes, because what we're going to do now is we're going to train. We're going to give classes to train in the areas. For example, the other night, Monday night at Daytona, we gave a class on what is it a DP does, a director of photography, and what does an audio person do when they're in the field? What are their problems? What are their responsibilities? Most people that I have found in Florida do not know the definition of a cinematographer, a director of photography, or a cameraman. They don't really know what those mean and why they're used. What they're doing. So we went over all that, and we went over the hiring programs of that, how people get hired through that. That was one. At every WIF meeting, we say to our members that are there, what would you like to learn? So, for example, the other night, people said, you know, it would be great for us to learn how you set up a camera. As a DP, what do you do with your camera crew? So what I did was I went back with that DP and I wrote up a curriculum for next month. We're going to pretend that location, we arrive on set, okay, what the cameraman does hands-on, his team does hands-on, and what three-point lighting we would use. Because the director of photography also covers lighting, which a lot of people don't know. So we're going to just work on one simple thing, three-point lighting, and then we'll let our members do hands-on to try to figure out why you do the certain angle, why you do shadows, why you do this. So what's nice about Women in Film, Florida, is that we do all those different activities. And you can say, this is the activity I want. Like I know you took my class on I fire PAs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right? I give a class on production. I give a class on final draft because I used to teach final draft. And again, what we don't do is we don't worry about having a big audience. We worry about in a branch that we have someone who's interested in learning a specific task, and we will create that for them. So when I show up like in Tampa, if I have 2 people, I'm happy because it isn't about popularity. It isn't about money, having a class. It's about being able to train people so that they can find a position and you don't get rusty sitting around doing nothing. And you don't learn bad habits. One of the things that I found here when you hire people is people come to you telling you that you know that they know a task. They don't know the task. They know what they've learned in the school they went to in many cases, but that hasn't really covered the hands-on approach. A lot of times it's theory or concept of what their visualization is, and it's not what a director sees. So I think I've covered all that. Did I miss anything?
No,
Go ahead.
Well, I was going to mention the programs that WIFT is launching or has just recently launched.
Okay, right. All right, we've got some new programs. I wrote a program for veterans. So here was my thought and idea. Because a veteran, I get all this email stuff about helping veterans. All costs money to help veterans. Okay, what I thought would be a neat idea is to find veterans that would like to learn how to get into this entertainment industry in any level of it.
Yeah.
And then identify who they are, offer them the training in those areas, mentorship within those areas. And then if we can find a writer that's written something who's a veteran, we will take that project and actually produce it. So we'll use professionals and we'll use our new talent veteran, okay, and fund their project so that we can show the world, we can enter into film festivals, that this was done by a veteran and that there's an opportunity out there for veterans.
Yeah, and their membership is,
Their membership is $25.
Yeah, just like the students, right?
Yep, just like the students. So right now, that's a new program. It's sort of like being launched, and I'm trying to raise more money for it. See, we need to raise money for our different projects. Our biggest event that we raise money is Jingle Mingle, and that will be in December. So if anybody wants to either join as a corporate member or become a member or just donate to a certain project, they can by going online. I forgot to tell you about the handicap project.
Yes, yeah.
We had a gentleman that's a paraplegic that wrote a script, and he needed a computer, so that he got. He sent me the script. I read the script. I liked the script. I started to break the script down to do a feasibility study to see basically how much it would cost. In the meantime, I sent that script towards Hollywood, to my friends.
Mm-hmm.
They read it. They liked it. They actually called that individual up and said, what do you want to do with it? Wow. And then the individual said that wrote it, I'd like to learn how to direct. So the director in Hollywood, Stuart Raffel, said to him, if we can get the funding for this, I will come out from LA with my wife, Diane, who's a producer, and we will help you produce this film, and I'll help you learn to direct.
That's amazing.
So that's another one I'm trying to raise money for. Amazing how difficult it is. I mean, I think both of those things are great, but it's hard to find people that go, I like that idea. So I'm hoping that this year during our Jingle Mingle that we'll be able to raise that money to be able to do those. But anyway, those are 2 new programs. Another program that is going to come out is the screening program. Okay. When we do something, we can't just do a screening for screening's sake.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that we do has to have a training attachment to it. There has to be something to learn. If we have a meet and greet where people just come and they sit down and buy something and have drinks and talk, that's a meet and greet activity. But to do a normal with activity where we train, we have to have a training objective. So what we created was the screening program. I get to vote on many, many of the different awards that are out there. Mm-hmm. So I've put together a critique on how would you grade that project for a film festival, for an Emmy or an Academy Award.
Oh.
Okay, so you get all this information and check-off list of what to look for as you're watching the screenings. So we run 2 pilots. They worked out really, really well. So now we're putting that together to get the funding we need to rent theaters. But if you're a WIF member you will be able to screen your event and then get this critique back from the people that are the viewers. So you'll have something you can work with. It will help you. You learn in that course about a marketing plan. I usually ask people when they watch something, I don't care if you like it. I don't want to hear all that stuff. I want 3 adjectives. I want your name. I want your age. I want your sex. Okay. And I want 3 adjectives. That's all I want. And then they go, why? I go, because that costs $140,000 for that marketing thing to happen. And we can do it right now. And I will take that and put it in an Excel spreadsheet. And it will tell me that if somebody uses the word fantastic or suspenseful and they're 70 and above, and the person that's 15 to 18 says the same thing, I have an interesting target audience.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
That's brilliant.
Every budget that I make on a film that money's put in there so they can do that marketing research in the big movies. But that's all they do. So I figured, hey, listen, why don't people know this? Okay. So tell people to go do that. And again, because the likey part doesn't help me. The likey part means that you're my friend. Okay. You don't want to hurt my feelings. But if you write those things down, and you'll see that women have put down certain ones, and then now I can use that on my poster.
Right. Yeah.
See, yeah. So I can use it on my poster. So if somebody watches it, they'll go, they'll remember that mental reference will be there that will then plug into, it was suspenseful. That had a lot of suspense, see? Because you're giving them something that they can identify with before they walk in, that if it's there and people see it between those many ages, you've got that. You can use it in your log line. You can use it in, your synopsis. That, I think, really helps out a lot, especially when a person like me has to talk to somebody about financing a movie, and I need to find what to say. One interesting financing thing was there was a really good script written by a local guy here in Orlando. Really, really good script. And so I tried shopping it around and getting people. I found a rich guy that lives here in Orlando, and he was afraid of doing this. All his friends said, don't invest in anything local. You're going to be robbed. He said, they're going to change their mind. Can't trust them. Everybody, their accountant, their attorney saying, don't do it. Anyway, we finally get a meet. The guy's going to give me $1.5 million. Has it ready on a check. What I do is if the meeting is at 3:00, I'll show up at 2. I'll be there before everybody else because, again, they always come early. But I have a reason for that because they're not going to throw me out. They're not going to go say, wait in the car, okay? They're going to invite me in. They're going to put me someplace, and they're going to talk to me, and then I can tell them funny stories. Okay, well, he takes me and puts me in his library. Now, in his library, he's got shelves, and on those shelves, he has movies. There were VHS tapes. And guess what? There were 2 of my movies there. And I said, did you like that movie, Sweet Liberty? And he went, I love that. He goes, I like Alan Alda in MASH, and I like Michael King. And I said, I worked in that movie. And he goes, you did? I go, yeah. You're kidding. I go, and that other movie over there, I worked on that one. You're kidding. Now I've got a commonality to talk. Now he's going to ask me questions, and if he doesn't, I can give him stories. And I'm building this confidence and trust now with him. So anyhow, he's real happy. All the people show up, the players, sitting there, right? And he says, before I give Art this check, I want to know, does anybody have anything they want to say? Anything that they want to get out of their system? The kid that wrote it, who has never directed anything in his entire life, says, well, now that I'm thinking about it, I think I should direct it because I know it better than anybody else.
Oh.
I'm telling you, if I could have jumped across the table and grabbed him, I would have. Right? I think I chased him around his car outside 3 times. This is all set up because I have a Hollywood director. I have Hollywood talent that are ready to be attached to this. The Hollywood director was like ready to go, but the talent, I have to wait till I have money before I can ever do anything. Right. So anyway, I have all this stuff all lined up. I have a budget that can shoot it for $1.5 million. Good storyline, easy to do. Right. And the guy said, what? And he goes, yeah, I have to put my foot down because this is my chance to direct. And the financier guy took the check, tore it up in little pieces, and told everybody to get out of his house except for me.
Oh,
and he said, Art, this is what I was worried about. And then Hallmark comes along. And this is back when I first moved here in 2004, 5, 6 timeframe. And I'm a guest speaker at one of the film festivals when I used to do that. And I'm talking about building the A-team, finding the good people, building that team just like Orson Welles did, and the Second City TV people. All work for the same price as we get started. And I get people go, that would be fun. I'd like to work on it. So, okay, good. All right. Then you guys all are signing up for this thing. No problem. Need a script. I need a Hallmark script. I need a script for 45 minutes. Put that out on the internet, like with women and film people. I get a script. I get a good script. And I send it to Hallmark, and Hallmark, the lady from Hallmark says, you know what? We tried with Florida. It's not going to work. We're telling you now. You're going to be sorry. And I went, I think I got it. I got it worked out. We're going to get $350,000 for that 45-minute project. I wrote the budget for $150,000. So Hallmark says, we're not giving you the money until you finish it. Okay, when you do the deliverables, we'll give you the check. So I find a rich guy in Jacksonville. He says, wait a minute, let me get this straight. If I give you $150,000, in 19 days, you'll sell that for $350,000 and I'll get all that money. I go, yep, you will. Because we'll have been paid with the $150,000. Okay? Yeah, you will. He goes, I can't make that money in a bank. I can't make that money on anywhere else. He goes, I'll do that. Tell you what I'll do too. I'll give you an extra $100,000 if you bring in. You can up it up. You can bring Hollywood people in or whatever you want to do, but I'll give you an extra $100,000. He said, because if you think about it again, I can't make that money, okay, that fast. Right. And I'm willing to believe in what you're telling me. All right, great, super. So I'm moving along, getting all the contracts done, I'm getting all the stuff done. And the kid that wrote the script didn't tell me that he had somebody else co-write it with him. So I get an email from this other kid, the co-writer, that says, hey, what's my share in this? And so I try to explain to him, we're all being paid the same. I can't, right now, you're all of a sudden popped into our life. I don't know who you are. So what you're going to have to do is split whatever, the kid's writer's fee is in half right now. And if I can find the money in the end, I'll boost back up. Then he says to me, oh, no, man. I have a friend that goes to a school in Florida, and they told me I should get like $600,000. I said to him, let me ask you something. You're in the WGA? And he goes, what? I go, you in the Writers Guild of America? No. Okay. Because if you're in the Writers Guild of America, back then, I had to offer you $81,000. That's what I have to offer you. That's the minimum I can offer you. I mean, you can make more, but I can say, hey, I only got $81,000. And then if you take it, the union's happy, everybody's happy. But right now, I can give you $5 for it, or $10, or $100, because you've never written anything, you've never sold anything. So I said, you guys got to get together and work this out. Well, the kid never wanted to work it out. That was the end of the movie.
Wow. So then that guy that gave you the money was very reluctant to...
He never finished giving us the money. So I never, I went back to him and I said, I lost the script. I lost the script. The people from Hallmark, the wonderful lady, laughed at me and said, told you. We have worked with so many people from your state that just don't seem to understand the industry and get it. But she said, I do like your idea of putting together that A-team. I said, see, what has to happen is you have to find the people that will stop for a second and say, I'm not working now. Hey, when I worked on one of the first movies in the Bahamas, I had the producers come out from LA. I had them meet people that I thought were good people here. In an interview, the producer said, what would be your rate to work? This is a feature film now. We're going away for 5 weeks to Eleuthera. Okay? What would be your rate? That means your rate per week. And the kid answered, well, I get $800 a day on my day rate. And she went, okay, but I'm not asking you for a day rate. Well, you'd have to multiply that times the number of days. And she looked at me, cross-eyed. I looked at her like, oh, man, I didn't believe the kid would be that stupid. See, he could be a great crew member, but he doesn't know how to negotiate. Right. He doesn't know the world. And so she looked at me and she goes, all right, that's it for Florida. I did not hire one outside Floridian after that from that project or the next 3 that we did. And they're right here. I mean, you have to fly people in from New York. You have to fly them in from California, but they're right here. You can swim across the ocean to get there. I mean, it's not that far, right? And we could have saved money, but it's not worth it if you don't have the right people. And again, you can go to school, but if you don't learn these hands-on real world tricks, you're limited in what you can do. And that was another one that I could have got guys hired. And then they would have worked. See, here's the deal. They would have worked with the Hollywood guys. The funny part of the story is when I came back from the Bahamas, I said, so how'd you make out? Well, I only got one gig. So what you're telling me is that you worked 3 days for $800. That's what you're telling me. Instead of making thousands. Mm-hmm. That's what you did. And the opportunity to work. See, like my jobs have always been because somebody has recommended me or the people want me back again type mm-hmm. deal. You're only as good as the last job routine, mm-hmm. right? If you don't get to work with those people that work all the time, I don't know how you think you're going to get there. So, I tell people, if you can just be a PA, okay? I know you want to be a director because you have a degree that doesn't say director because that doesn't really happen, but you have a degree and you're happy that you have that degree. But if you're not working, okay, and what you're really doing is working at Starbucks, telling people that you want to be a director one day and working on independent films, all right? I don't know how you think you're going to get there, but if you were a PA on a feature, a film where people work all the time, if you do the right things, you will be hired for the next one. And you can move up each time. One of the things and I think I told you this story when you took the PA class, one of the things that I do as a production manager, when I hire PAs, I ask you, what do you want to be when you grow up?
You asked me that in front of everyone.
I put
you put me on the spot.
Yeah. I put that on. I put that on. I write it down. So when we were working on one project, here we are. We're all ready to go. The waitress, girl playing a waitress, isn't showing up. Stuck in traffic. I don't know. I got a director screaming. I got everybody screaming. So what am I going to do? So what I did was I looked at my PA list, and there was a girl in wardrobe that said she wanted to be an actress. This is great. I sent for the girl. I say to her, here are the sides that they're shooting. You have one line. Here's the sides. Can you do this? And if you can, go back to wardrobe and change that outfit that's supposed to be on that other actress to fit you and come back. In the meantime, I'm going to write a contract. So I have to write a contract for her so that she gets paid as talent versus a PA on wardrobe. So she comes back. She's all happy. I said to her, I'm going to see if I can get you paid twice today. I'll see if I can give you your PA and give you your acting pay. Anyway, she did that, right? She shoots it. We're doing the dailies at night. The director says to me, that girl, where do we get her from? I said, wardrobe. No. How'd you find her? She's a PA in wardrobe. Oh, that was excellent. But you know what? I think I want her to play another part. Now that kind of pissed me off, right? Because now I got to go find, I got to find money to reshoot what we just did. Then I got to go find somebody else to play that part that she played. And I got to fire the person that's supposed to be playing the part that she's taking. Mm-hmm. See? So that's my world then. But anyway, that girl made it. See? When you're in the kitchen, you never go hungry. That's my grandmother told me that.
Yeah.
When you're in the kitchen, you'll never go hungry. If you work somewhere else, like you're the waiter, you might not go hungry. But if you're a bartender, you're stuck behind the bar. So you're going to go hungry. That's what you have to learn. You have to learn that philosophy, that concept, be able to move forward.
I like that saying. I'm going to keep that with me. I haven't heard that one. That's a good one.
I got a million of them, sweetheart.
I know you do. You have a million of them. You have a million stories. You have a million pieces of advice. It's amazing. We've already gone way over time, and I'm still learning so much as I always do. Oh, I have so many more questions and talking points. But I know I don't want to take so much of your time. So thank you so much for joining me, Art. I'm thrilled to have had the opportunity to interview you today. Whenever I'm headed to a WIFT event, I cross my fingers that you'll be there since you're such a joy to converse with. And I always learn so much, just as I have today.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. This has been fun.
Yeah, I'm so glad. This has been great. And all that you've accomplished from working in the film to your passion for WIFT to the hundreds of people you've mentored through the years is immensely admirable. Like I said, there was so much that we could have covered today, and we're quite over time, and we're just scratching the surface. So I would absolutely love to have you on in the future, but thank you for your time today. And I didn't say this because it was attached to a question that I scratched. Thank you for your service, and I'm really looking forward to seeing you at another WIFT event hopefully soon in the future.
Well, thank you, and I enjoyed it. And yes, I'll be more than happy. And be safe, and I'll see you at the next event.
Yes, and make sure you like Women in Film and Television Florida on Facebook to stay updated, and go to womeninfilmfl.org to join WIFT and learn more about the scholarships and grants offered as well as upcoming events. And if you're not in Florida, go to wifti.net to find your local WIFT chapter and get involved. You'll be very glad you did. You are guaranteed to learn a lot from each event. Is there a film recommendation, a line from a film, really anything you'd like to conclude this episode with today?
No, I think we covered everything.
Yeah. I'll recommend The Bucket List, since it's a film that will resonate with all and has several...
The bucket... Oh, no. Watch Bowfinger.
Bowfinger, right. Bowfinger, yes.
Yes, that's a requirement. Like, the requirement for my boat is you got to watch Captain Ron before you're allowed to go on. And
I love that.
The requirement in my class would be, if we had it in class, you would have watched Bowfinger 3 times.
3 times.
Not just once, 3 times. Yes, because we break it down each time for different things.
I'll have to...
Yeah. Remember this, too. It's only $2,184 to make a movie. That's what Bowfinger says.
That's what Bowfinger says. That must be right.
2000. Yeah, that's the line. That's the actual line from the movie. Every movie only costs $2,184 because that's what he saved over his time period, $1 a day or whatever it was. Yeah. Ever since he was a kid.
Thank you again for joining me today, Art. Thank you all for listening. And I would like to end this episode with a quote by Morgan Freeman's character Carter in The Bucket List. Find the joy in your life. Bye, everyone. Special thanks to Art Smith Jr., Dr. Jillian Smith, Janine Sarah, Devin Stewart Leslie, and Janelle Jordan. This episode was recorded on July 9th, 2025.